Start now. Hey, everybody. My name is Aaron Schey, and it is a true honor to have you join me today for today's Habatat-Zoom as we review the upcoming auction. It's happening quick. The international is coming quick. Time is flying by. It's already almost May. I mean, I swear it was just the New Year's a minute ago. We were down in Florida for Glass Coast weekend, and now we're coming up quick. And I'm so excited to see everybody. We have almost 40 artists coming in for our show next month from all over the world. And Laura Donifer just said she's coming in too. For those who know Laura, it's great to see her. She's been having some family scenarios that she's going through, and we're grateful to have her join us as well for this big event. So without further ado, I'm going to start sharing my screen, and I'm going to start going through some of this upcoming events we have. We have on our website here, you can kind of see we have this little hamburger they call us in the corner. You can join the Zooms every week. The link is posted here under this Zoom button. I'll just run you through it. And you can see what happens in the RSVPs right there every week if for some reason you don't get the Zoom link. So just make sure that I'm thinking of you, but you can always check there without me. All right. So let's continue on to the international. It's so exciting to have this event coming in. It's our 52nd year of the show. It's amazing to say that an exhibition continuing for 57 years. That is a heck of a legacy. And Corey and Rob have reworked the gallery a bit, so those who are coming to that show will really see something incredible. They've kind of tweaked the spaces and put up walls to make it a more personal experience. And I'm really looking forward myself to see how it turns out, because we have some incredible pieces coming in and some of the best I've ever seen. The artists are making work at the top of their careers, and new artists are creating. So come and be part. This is the VIP pass that you'll receive at the show if you're coming for our Glass Coast weekend. But if you can't make it for the actual weekend, which people have, I know, other promises going on, come afterwards. It's up for the summer. Come and see us. And those who are local, come and participate in the events as well. It's a lot of fun. Everybody's there. It's like Sofa, but the only thing that exists still. There is no Sofa. So we have to get together at, I guess, the Habitat events in Sarasota and here in Royal Oak, Michigan at the Habitat Galleries complex. So let's talk about the auction. We have 50 pieces, a full auction. One of them is also a fundraiser for the Flint Institute of Arts, and we'll get to that as we go through these pieces. I'm joined today by Ferdinand Hampson, the founder of Habitat Galleries, and my partner, Corey Hampson, who are going to join in this discussion. You're welcome to join as well. This is very informal, but very fun. So let's get started. Ignore that. We'll talk about the first piece here. I don't know who this artist is. I think his name is Don Chihuly. Oh, Dale Chihuly, right. It is a historic piece made in 1978. So this is actually probably made by Chihuly's hands alone. It's a beautiful sample of his work. I have a 360 videos of a lot of these on our MasterWorks site. And for those who don't know, I'll walk at the end how to get to it. But on top of our website is a button that says the MasterWorks auction. You can see a lot of 360 videos and more images. And I'm adding more every week until the auction happens. Wonderful piece by Dale. Everybody must have a piece by Dale in their collection, whether it's a newer work or older. I prefer a lot of the historic works because it's a lot of fun to see the eras that I missed and what I enjoyed. But this is a great piece by the artist.
A very transitionary piece. This is when he just started developing the baskets. He had previously been doing the cylinders, and this is a example. It's a little more rigid. It became a little more bumpy and lumpy as the series went on, but a very interesting transitionary piece.
Yes. Thank you, Ferd. Our next piece, I think Ferd sold this piece about 40 years ago.
I did.
Right? And so this work lived with its previous owner for decades. And now
45.
45.
Yeah. I know you were born in 1970.
Right.
It's strange. We had a show with Harvey
in
1979, and not one piece like this was in that show. So this was the first time he was gathering glass and colors on the interior and revealing it. And so it probably wasn't shown until like 1980, 1981.
Gotcha. Good to know. This also comes with a small black plinth that the seller is also providing with the piece. So that will be with the sculpture, helps it pop off the shelf. But another video has a 360 on our website, so make sure to see that there. Christopher Reese, a lot of people have been buying a lot of Christopher Reese work on the secondary market. I know they are incredibly visually stimulating with their optics, and he fits well in optical shows. And there's a 360 on the website as well, this piece. And he works on all types of scales and sizes, and a lot of times he uses recycled glass, but the this work is a very, very beautiful sculpture by the artist. Emily Brock, is always fun to incorporate Emily's work in our auctions. This is the fun piece called Afternoon Tea. Very detailed. I took some other photos of it, put it up on our website as well. And just an overall peaceful piece, lots of detail on the actual table of these two women enjoying the day. And Emily is really well known for her details and her hidden things and objects. And as you can see, that the piece has a base with a base on top of it. And when Emily first started working, there was a single base, and these things were very hard to move. We had to slide them off the end of a table to try to get a grip on them. And then realizing this was an issue, she added a second layer, which made them a lot easier to transport, which
You
I
know what
really appreciated.
about Emily's work is the fact that the work represents almost every single glass technique that is out there, from lamp working to fusing to working with frit, slumping. The figures are cast and it's assembled together. I mean, the whole thing is like, if you wanted to describe glass making, this is it.
Definitely. Thank you, Corey. And Emily has since stopped working, so the works that are out and available in the world are what we got today. Corey, you want to take this one?
Yeah, William Morris. So this piece was created in 1988. I love the Chihuly patent lip wrap because he was working with Chihuly as his main gaffer at the time. And in fact, there is this black and white letter to Ferd and Tom. It's really kind of amazing, from Dale Chihuly, saying, "Hey, check out this guy." And there was pictures of Billy Morris's work. I think that was like in 1979, 1980, Ferd, do you remember?
Yeah, I
Do
believe so. Yeah.
you? It was just
And
great.
he was famous for bringing these black trunks, Dale Chihuly. He would travel on the airplane with like 6 giant black trunks at the time. And he brought some pieces just to show us the work of Bill Morris. That's the first time I saw it. I think it was like 1979.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's amazing. So what eventually happened, he would decorate these vessels with shards of glass. He would pick them up hot. And eventually those shards of glass became cave drawings, or drawings that he did on the surface. And then sometime in the 90s, about 92, 93, they popped off and became three-dimensional. So he started blowing these elements, the Ryoton series and the Hanging Artifact series and a number of different series, but they were three-dimensional. So he's considered one of the greatest glass blowers of all time.
Thank you, Corey. A Bertolini map, freestanding sand cast sculpture. Lots going on in this work. A lot of his work is about achievement, about life, about the path through life. Many of you are familiar with his Janus heads and boats. These works in particular, when you light them from behind, they really have an essence of glow, and each sculpture has so much detail in these, whether it's embedded in the glass or floating on the front in the sand cast process. Truly a master, one of the most famous artists in the world. Another William Morris grouping. I think there are 5 different, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different type urns that all hang out together on this plate. And this is just another wonderful example of William Morris's work when Corey was talking about the features popped off the sculptures. And you have these wonderful urns that have popped out, and you can assemble them any way you like. We just kind of had fun putting them in together for this photo. But if you're at the actual auction, you'll see this in real life, and it's a very impressive piece. Judith Schechter, we've had this piece at auction a few times. We've had to pull it a few times, believe it or not, because it was not in our gallery. We had to have it in our gallery to actually put it up at auction, and now it's going to be included. Judith is doing some incredible works today. Works of hers have been appearing at museums, institutions. We were at the Renwick, and there was a piece donated to the Renwick that was on the wall by Judith that came from a private collection. So someone who should be part of your collection, who makes these very powerful pieces and very emotional pieces about life. And that's what art's all about. It's having an emotional response to seeing something that makes you feel and want it. And this is definitely an example of her work that's of that caliber. Very vertical, though. It's 43 inches tall. Most of her work is not like this, so this is a rare piece that will find a home. Here's another Harvey Littleton. Ferd, you want to take this one?
Yeah, this is larger than the other piece. And I know you did a rotation on this too. Beautiful colors. I like the form too, because the form sort of flows with the colors on this. And the base is actually made by Harvey too. Yeah, it's a beautiful example. These are, the smaller examples, obviously, but that actually in some ways makes them rarer because there's not a whole lot of that kind of scale around.
Yeah, I agree. I did not know that Harvey made the base. That's good to know. The base is quite scratched up from use over time, but the piece is not. So keep that in mind. Wonderful work, though. A fun work by our friend Susan Taylor Glasgow. This piece is called The Little Mermaid Dreams Big. And you can tell she had a good time making this larger sculpture. These free floating pieces in front are just freestanding. You're able to place them any way you like. Each one is a different tone and color that sits in front of this wonderful sculpture. When you light it from behind, you feel like you're at a play or a theater. So if you have a niche or some kind of larger space, this piece can sit or in front of a window. It would really create a full-time play for you to watch whenever you like. Joel Philip Myers. This is a incredible work by Joel. He's another artist that's been selling a lot of work at secondary market, and usually they sell very under the money. I think they're a great collector's item to acquire. He's a very important artist to the original glass world and glass family. He has a lot of works out there, and he created a lot of techniques that are used today by others. And this work is just a wonderful tone in blue, and 18 inches wide. It's quite substantial. This is the great piece by Ginny Ruffner. It's always rare to have her work in our auctions, but it's a lot of fun when they appear. This one's called The Weird House from 1995, and you can see it's full of cell phones and satellite dishes and light bulbs. And this is probably her like talking about technology, right? And how it's affecting our lives, these windows that are popping around. And I think I have the video up of it. Let me see if I do so I can show it. Oh, maybe I don't have it up, but I'll have to check my browser. Maybe I'll show them at the end. Let me see if I have it in this window. It's too hard to see. Channels. Yeah, here it is. Let's look at it real quick in the 360.
The piece is about relying on technology, and the Windows is it's a metaphor for Windows, not the actual.
Gotcha.
So the communication, and we rely on, instead of just talking to people these days, we get on our phones and they rule our lives. It's kind of incredible. I love looking at the phones. I showed my son this picture. He said, "I don't know what those are." The one that
That's
cell
funny.
phone. This is revolutionary.
Yeah, times are changing, that's for sure. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a 19 inches tall, 15 by 16, give or take, because of the details, but a wonderful work by Ginny Ruffner. Corey, you want to take this one?
This is an all core piece by John Kuhn. And as you know, Ferdinand John Kuhn's studio to work with him one summer when I was, I believe, 14, 15 years old. And I went to the grit mines, grinding and polishing his glass. And he told me the most difficult parts of his work were the middle core pieces. So, you would get a 4-inch metal core piece, and you would do it by cutting, grinding, and polishing and laminating together different elements on different planes. And then you'd cut that and glue that to another element, and like crystal, and you could build it up. But he said, to get it to about 4 inches takes about 4 months. This, I believe, is about 5.5, it says 5.5 inches.
From corner to corner, so.
From corner to corner. So it's still, but it's a precious piece. And, I had a collector that asked me, what color is it? It's every color you can imagine. Essentially, it's clear glass refracting light throughout. Really quite incredible. So again, I get sweats when I look at this because I know how much work's put into it, but it's a really marvelous piece by John Kuhn.
Thanks. And it does rotate too, right, Corey?
It does. It rotates a little around. Now there is a little scuff on the base, I noticed. It's very small, the size of a pinhead, but I did notice it, and it could be buffed out. I'm not quite sure. I didn't spend a tremendous amount of time when I was spinning it But it is, it's the base, and I believe it's something that can be repaired. But the glass itself.
Thanks, Corey.
Yep.
A very tall Dan Clayman. Have had these larger works at auction before. A very substantial piece by the artist, who is a longtime member of our Habitat family. These works explore light. Wouldn't you say, Corey?
That's exactly what they do. This is a light beam coming down. So when Dan was a young buck making his way through college, he took a job doing theater, working behind the sets. And one of his job was lighting. And it's amazing how, you could take some information and like 20, 30, 40 years later, as an artist, produce something from that experience. And that's what you see here. Literally years later, he took that information, created a whole body of work. This one's entitled Envelope, but they were bodies of beams of light coming down. And a lot of these were made from recycled light bulbs, which is kind of fascinating as well. But really a substantial piece. I have one in my collection. Absolutely love it.
Thank you, Corey. Sonia Blumenthal. Fred, you want to take this one?
Well, she's a Seattle artist and has been around for a long time, well recognized, very conservative imagery, but a really great colorist, as you can see in this piece.
Yeah, when I was looking up and researching her a little bit, it was rare to find a piece shallow like this. Usually her pieces were taller. This is a wonderful example of her work at a smaller, lower scale. And we have another one in the auction you'll see later that's slightly larger.
Well, both of these, I want to tell you really quickly. They're both done by Uncolmo, which is a Venetian technique that Lino Tagliapietro brought over to the United States during his trips to Pilchuck. And really, it's about bringing two hot pieces together. And you'll see that a lot of artists like John Kiley, there's a tremendous amount of artists out there that work in this technique now. But Sonia Blumenthal, she's one of these artists from Seattle that took this technique on through her entire career.
Thank you, Corey. I remember seeing John Kiley do it in Florida right in front of us for our demo during Glass Coast weekend. It was very cool to see because there's so much going on and you have one shot at it. If you mess it up, it's out. Another artist exciting on social media is Jeffrey Boughton. We're showing him in our international show, and he sent us some gloves that we wanted to incorporate in the auction to get the name out there for the artist. If you ever meet the artist, he's a very intelligent gentleman who did go to the military and has PTSD from being in the military and talks to others about it like it's the topic of the day. It's very outspoken, which is very needed in the community. And he makes these wonderful pate verre pieces exploring what he's talking about, and having people see his work and continue the conversation about their time in the military is very helpful therapeutically for people in the military. And we're honored to show them and wanted to get the work out there. And they're very, very powerful pieces. And I think they're priced very well.
He won the Dorothy Sachs Award
for,
I think it was last year. One artist is chosen each year by her as being the most up and coming artist. I also juried the show for Gas, and I gave him the top award. I think he's really quite amazing.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you, Ferd. Thank you for voting for him. Nancy Callan, Corey, you want to take this one?
So there's a group of Seattle artists that have kind of taken on where Billy Morris kind of let off. So Billy Morris retired a number of years ago at the age of 50, decided he wanted to go out and surf in Hawaii, spearfish. He's living out there. He actually bought some wood to whittle, but really just living this free life. But there's a number of artists in Seattle that kind of took his place. And one of them is Nancy Callan. She used to gaff for Lino Tagliapietro. She just does a phenomenal work. And I think her work, I absolutely love this piece. But look at the striations and the linear work throughout the vessel. Really quite beautiful. So her, John Kiley, and a few others have kind of taken place of the new artists. I can't say they're new, but I could say that they are mid-career, taking on part of where these legends left off.
Thank you. There's a 360 of this piece as well. You can see all the sides of it. And I love the subtle detail, the small blue hidden in the darkness of this work. Judy Jensen. So I did a little research for it, but I think you know more about the artist than I do.
Yes, I believe I do. Because she really stopped working, and but I always thought she was a wonderful artist. She always went by Judy Bailey Jensen, and I don't know if you did a close up of this piece, but you can do, and the detail is absolutely wonderful. She's an artist from Texas.
Gotcha. I was doing my research too. She has some work in multiple private collections, including the Royal Ontario Museum, Los Angeles County Museum of Art, Smithsonian, Corning Museum, blah 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 blah. Very, very interesting. Different bodies of work, and that this is large too. It's 46 inches big, and it mounts to the wall. So it looks 3D, but it's entirely flat, by the way. And it's something you got to see really in person, but it is a miraculously amazing piece.
Yeah.
Nick Mount from Australia, we longtime member of our Habitat family, very peaceful pieces. Works, he's a very talented artist, and watching him work is quite amazing. And this work is blown, and then he takes his blown work and finishes it. It had some real amazing cold work to it, creating a peaceful presentation. And all of his work has this reflected. And he's Australian, and I just love the overall look of this piece, and we wanted to include one in the auction.
For about over 40 years, he's worked with Dick Marcus, creating a number of Dick's pieces with him. And a few years ago, they did a collaborative series together. But you can see that this is far from what Dick is Dick is kind of out there. This is more conservative, but very elegant, very sculptural, almost Brancusi-like.
Yeah, 27 inches wide, quite substantial too. This is a fun work by Gabrielle Kutzner, represent her in the gallery for many, many years. Fused glass that creates this wonderful rainbow of color. This is 6 particular panels. This whole thing is 36 by 24, so each panel is 12 by 12 that mounts together on the wall. We have had this work in the auction before, but we worked on a really great starting price to make sure that this piece finds the home. So if you're looking for a work similar to this or Gabrielle Kutzner, this is the best chance I've ever seen.
She created that piece for an exhibition that we had entitled Four Seasons, if I recall. Is that correct, Ferd?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I also remember that she was a student of David Hutchhausen. He's from Germany, which is quite incredible. She makes work very different than David. This is fused panels, but what she does is she paints with China paint on each element and then fuses it together with this special, almost like a oh gosh, can't come up with the name. No, the color, the type of paint that these artists used. I know the specific name, and it came in and it went out somewhere.
That's
but anyway, really quite beautiful, and I love the how it becomes really light in the middle and then slowly becomes darker as the change of seasons happens. So quite beautiful.
Thank you, Corey. This is a rare work by Eric Hilton. Many of you know his work. It's in Corning. He's in all kinds of museums. I think he was the full-time creator at Corning for a while, right, Corey?
To Ben, and Ferd's got a great story of how he discovered. Well, he didn't discover Eric Hilton. How he met Eric Hilton. Ferd.
Yeah. What story are you referring to?
I'm talking when you saw him on TV at some point.
Oh, yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
I saw him on one of the national television morning shows, and they had a piece there. It was called Innerland, which is on permanent display in the Corning Museum. And the Innerland, they said, was the most expensive piece of glass ever made. And it was $250,000, which, needless to say, caught my attention, not only for its beauty, but for its price. And subsequently, that particular piece went on to inspire Ben Heineman, the collector from Chicago, and Shirley and Sherwin Glass, the collectors from Atlanta, to make commission him to make even larger pieces. Now one is also now in the Corning Museum from the Heineman collection, and from the glass collection it's in the Flint Institute of Arts. So they're all in museums. It's spectacular work.
Yeah, this is a multiple panel piece that all slides into that wooden base on the bottom and creates such a detailed experience that you must see in person. Paul Stankard, we're going to be watching his documentary during the Glass52 event up at the Flint Institute of Arts. We've made an arrangement with the director and the institution to you borrow their giant theater to watch this very impressive presentation that you can only watch at these VIP events. They don't have it online or anywhere. So those who are coming for a weekend get a chance to get a glimpse into Paul's life, career, and work at the highest level with this high production movie we're going to be watching when we go up to Flint to see the Glass and Clay exhibition, see John Miller demo, and also check out this video. So we're going to have a full day that day on, I think it's May 4th, which is the day of our grand opening for the public. This work is very, very fun too.
Which you should fly into. I'm telling you, fly in, fly out for a day. This is our biggest international event that we've ever thrown, with so many artists that are showing. And this is the first time that this video is going to be released. It's the premiere. It's really worth coming. So please, get your tickets. It's 1 week away. Just jump on for a day. We don't care which day. Pick a day.
Come on in. This work has the bee that people are really well known and ask Paul all the time if he catches bees and throws them in the glass. Everything in there is 100% glass, and an earth spirit, which is growing out of the actual plant itself. And we'll have another Paul Snaker later in the auction that we're going to talk about as well. And both obviously are unique. This is a very fun work by Tim Tate. It's wall mounted and sits straight up, and it's called My Love Life Thus Far. And there's a building that collapses and comes back and collapses and comes back in the actual screen there, which I managed to put in this time. And so it constantly moves around. It's a very fun piece. You'll have a chance to see it at the auction and experience it in person.
Tim Tate is just done a collaboration with Joyce Scott.
Yeah, I heard about that. Right. That's great news.
Pretty incredible. That's pretty incredible. If you get a chance, go online. I can't remember the name of the Gaia Gallery.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, good. But worth Goya Gallery, but worth checking out for sure.
Great to hear he's doing that. Judith Lascola. This is probably one of the nicest Judith Lascolas I've seen. We've had them in the auctions in the past. I love the tone and color of this particular piece with this ancient kind of bottle form. And I was trying to research what this bottle is called. I figured there was some kind of like ancient alchemist terminology, but I couldn't find anything that was describing this exact bottle. But you can see it kind of reflected in the actual glass that she's actually made behind it. And it has an overall beautiful presence of this work. And it's one of my favorites I've seen her make.
Yeah, the whole background is inspired by that vessel that she created. And she duplicated it in the background and using 9 different firings so that you could have the really dark backgrounds to make it pop.
This is a very large Deanna Clayton sculpture. Deanna has been making these beautiful doll female figures as of late, and they've been doing really well, but we like to represent her more well-known pate verre style of creating this large of her vessels. And these have been very popular for years. This one's 24 by 24, so it's quite a substantial piece. I had to pick it up to photograph it. And it was definitely, it's not heavy because it's somewhat hollow, but man, it is a big, wonderful work by Deanna. And that red is so vibrant and beautiful that you have to see it too. A wonderful Valine head. Many of you, I mentioned earlier, Berta Valine's Janus heads that he's really well known for. And this one is very, very interesting. It doesn't have that piece of wood underneath it when you buy it. I don't know where that came from for this photo, but any base could possibly work for this work. And as you look at the front of the piece and you start to curve around it, it starts to reflect this hidden being inside the glass. And we have a 360 of this also on the website to check out and see. It is a beautiful piece, and I've kind of lifted it up. And if you look right here, you can actually see the face, and this is the reflection in the glass. Wonderful work by Berto.
This was created at the Museum of Glass in 2008. And so it was one of the few pieces that were created in the United States and not through Costa Boda, which is quite fascinating. It's unique. And of course, Janus, the Greek god, January. So we get January looking forward, looking in the past, the change of the season, the change of the year. Really a remarkable piece. If you don't have one in your collection, it's worth acquiring.
Thank you. Howard said too that the opening for the Joyce Scott, Tim Tate's De Goya Gallery. So I'm glad we have that in there now too.
Today, right? Today or
Yeah,
tomorrow?
today. And this is the fundraiser. You want to talk about this one, Corey?
Yeah, so we've collaborated with the Flint Institute of Arts on a fundraiser. The proceeds of this sale go to the Flint Institute of Arts and help development of their glass collection. It's a wonderful facility there, where there's where they have acquired the glass collection, which is the Shirley and Sherwin glass, and they've kind of built on top of that. So John Miller's going to be blowing glass during our international at the Flint Institute of Arts, but this is every element is done hot on the end of a blowpipe, and it sounds easy, but it is not easy. The whole thing weighs about 65 pounds, and I mean you've got the pickles, you've got the bacon, every little element, even the sesame seeds on top of the bun. Not easy to do, but he's really remarkable. In fact, John Moran, who is the winner of season 4 of Blown Away, John Miller was his professor. And so everything that John learned, he learned it from John Miller. So we're proud to have this piece and to collaborate with Flint this year on this fundraiser.
Gotcha. Thanks, Corey. Corey, do you want to take this one?
Yes, Vasicek is a Czech artist, quite well known. However, not as well known in this country because his numbers of pieces he makes are really very few. He was represented by Heller Gallery here, but again, because he didn't make a lot of work, he didn't have exhibits maybe once every 3 or 4 years, but very respected in the Czech Republic and kind of an artist. Yeah, you always hear him talk in reverent terms by other artists in the Czech Republic and elsewhere.
So I visited studio in 2019, 2020, 2020. I visited, and it's in his so he lives in this loft, and you can look down and see where he makes the work. And I mean, well, we didn't know what to expect. We kind of just knocked on his door, and he showed up, and I swear he's wearing pajamas. I don't know, but he let us in. He had coffee in his hand. He let us in. We came in, and he had some of the most remarkable work we've ever seen. And there were these enormous pieces. And we said, what do you show? And we found out for the last 2 decades, he's been just sending work to Japan. And he's had like 3 or 4 clients that just supported his work and just almost acquire everything that he makes. And some of these pieces were like, I don't know, 5 feet wide. They were like Lebinsky-sized sculpture. And I was just totally, absolutely flabbergasted. So I asked him, I said, we should do a show of yours. We should put something together. And he was really excited. I said, well, how long would it take you? He said 6 years.
Wow.
It's an ongoing conversation.
You can see the scale in this work, as Corey mentioned, is 28 inches tall by 31 inches wide. Has a beautiful presence and a lot going on, and it's a beautiful work. And I'll be doing a video of some of these when we get to the actual auction on the floor, because they're kind of hard to pick up. A really substantial work by artist Seth Randall, 32 inches tall, called The Scholar. This is a very monumental sculpture by the artist who does his work in Pate Ver as well. As you walk around this piece, it has faces on 2 sides, has a real feeling of a lost time or a civilization that's long gone. Well-known artist, and it's a great piece that's available at this auction. A fun work by our friends Lucio Babaca, longtime member of our family. I've discovered recently that the male figure it is signed, so that piece, which coincides with the other one, it has at least one signature between the 2 of them. Fun work. I have some detailed shots up on the auction site, and you can kind of see that she's reading, he's playing an instrument. Very, his work always has experience to it or celebration. They're both wearing masks. They're probably at some kind of elite event we won't talk about too much, but very wonderful work at a very minor scale at 7 inches tall and 8 inches tall, or 7 and change for each of them. Wonderful pieces by Lucio.
Yeah.
A Japanese artist that Corey and I discovered, I'll try it, Midori Toscada. very big. It's 23 inches tall, has a real powerful presence, and will look great in any collection. And we're really excited about this artist and happy to have a piece in the auction, bringing more attention to her, because we want to bring more work of hers into America, because we think it's absolutely wonderful and it needs more exposure. And we figured, why not put one in the auction and get people to look? A Peter Hora piece, one of his maquettes that we have in the gallery. This one's called, I believe, Rose, and at 12 inches tall, it is a modest size for most of Peter Hora's work, which is much larger, but beautiful tones. And I took some other photos of it too in a natural light, because it's not so solid as a pink, but has a pink glow to it. But it is a beautiful work by that master artist himself.
The actual title is Domus, but the color is rose.
Thank you, Corey. Now we go to space. Jump on our spaceship with artist Rick Beck. This is incredible work by Rick. It's 44 inches tall, two-part piece that assembles together. And he's well known for his antics about space travel. He just finished a big, giant squid made out of metal that's been installed, I believe, somewhere maybe in Seattle. And this is probably one of the nicest works I've seen by the artist at a large scale. We've had astronauts in space and different kinds of creatures, but this work is just a very fun one, and it's museum quality for sure. Okay, who wants this one? Corey, Ferd?
Yeah. Oban Albright, an amazing artist. This is one of the street people. And it was actually taken from people that were out around his studio, which was not in the best neighborhood in California. But the sensitivity that he gets in the faces and the clothing and the gestures, that makes the work stand apart from just about anybody else working with glass.
Oban was a student of Clifford Rainey, as well as his mother is a trompe-l'oeil artist. And so he has a wonderful background in terms of how he got involved and why he got involved. But really, as Ferd said, just, really incredible sculpture.
At 22 inches high, a very important piece by the artist, and cornerstone for any glass collector. Here's the other Sonia Blumenthal. That's a larger work made out of glass. Is 12.5 inches tall, 10 by 10. The mouth of it is very, very wide, and it's just an overall beautiful sculpture as well. Shows her overall talent, and again, that the process they talked about with the two hot sides being connected at once, a very special piece by the artist. Our friend David Ricci, a longtime part of our family, does very fun works that have very subtle humor to them. This one's called Anonymous Figure 1, and we want to make sure he's included in this auction as well. Many of you may have seen the faces he creates, or the birds, or the animals, or the figurines, usually talking about society today or different political things going on. This was more just like some kind of random animal that he decided to create that is not part of this world, that made him smile and might make you smile too. Ferd, you're going to take this one? You counted the rings?
I did. I counted them. There's actually 30 sheets of glass incorporated in this piece. And plate glass, you say, well, he didn't make it. But look at it. He carved this piece. Carved it into not only the imagery in the middle, but also around the edges and everything to give it kind of a smooth and wonderful surface. The interior there, the which he calls the inhabitant, is quite wonderful. You can't really make out what exactly it is, which makes the piece even more mysterious and exciting. And I love the way that light glows right through the piece on the bottom there.
Thank you, Ferd.
He passed away a number of years ago. His son is still working and doing some very credible work, but he's no longer with us.
Thank you, Ferd. A wonderful work by Steve Weinberg. This particular sculpture has been checked over fully and is in great condition. Sometimes these works have issues or were put down hard, or sometime in the past where they have small flaws, but this work does not. It came from a great collection we picked up ourselves. And it explores space and time and and the visuals are very stimulating. And this was a very popular work back in the 90s, and I think maybe the late 80s. He was doing these larger
86.
cubes, right? Yeah, this was a later piece made in the 90s.
Yeah. Yeah, I just praised the collection of about 8 of his works and realized how great they are. They're really a wonderful thing to look at and explore.
Thank you, Ferd. A museum quality work by Janusz Walentinowicz called Anna Remembers. We've had this work in auction in the past. I wanted to put it up for another shot. Very, very peaceful piece, exploring, and maybe it has a small nature-esque feel to it of a woman gazing through a garden. And I just overall love this piece, and I'm hoping the work finds a home. It is framed and mounts on the wall. And the process is he casts the work, and then he reverse paints it, painting on the other side. And I believe he painted on the front too of this piece for the front, and the back is the female. And it's just a substantial work by the well-known artist from Denmark. And now we come to the Howard Ventray bench. These are very rare to find for sale. I haven't seen one in a long time. We have this incredible one that
Almost everyone is in a museum somewhere.
all these
And,
pieces are in a museum, right?
and he would only do like a bench for every series of work that he would do or body of work that he would do. He would usually end up by doing a bench, in some cases, 2 benches. But I would chance to say there's probably 6 or 7 benches in the world, all very different, depending on what series he was working on.
It's good to know. A very rare thing to have at this auction. It also also has a crate that we had designed for the actual piece. So during shipping, it will ship in its safe transportation box, which is always good to have when you have a piece of this substantial and heavy.
Yeah.
Here's the other Paul Stankett I was talking about. And Paul's slowed down a lot and he's making some great works, but he's no longer making these cube forms at all. He's only doing a small paperweights in his orb style. So it's rare to have these cube ones still available. And this came from the Michael and Annie Belkin collection, who were personal friends of Paul's for decades. And actually, Mr. Belkin gave Paul a certain amount of money every year, gave it to him and said, whatever you make that you think is the best, send it to me. And so Paul, for decades, would come up with work and said, this is the best, you're getting it. And we had the honor of offering the collection. This is one of the masterpieces in the collection, and wanted to have a chance to put it up at auction and have someone find a home. Elizabeth Sterling, this work is beautiful. Would you say, Ferd?
Yeah, we never really showed her that much because she was very involved in the Riley Hawk Gallery in Cleveland. But I always admired it. The detail is just amazing, and do you have it so that you can see all sides of it?
I have a video of it I can probably pull up if you give me a second to locate it. Let me see if I can find one. Put me on the spot here.
Yeah, her work really explores storytelling, and there's a number of artists that have like carved on the surface of glass, including the Borowski family from Poland, and recently April Sergent, and of course Yari Harsuba from the Czech Republic. But every one of those artists bring their own element, their own idea, their own imagery, their own story. And Elizabeth Sterling definitely has her own feeling on each piece regarding the faces and the story that she wants to tell. She's almost like a surrealist. So if you look, see some, strange inanimate objects, or you might see the face and the expression change a little bit. And the perspective on this piece is just, I think, phenomenal. So when I mean perspective, I mean the face closer in certain areas and people farther back, but it's all on the same plane. Really quite incredible.
How's that for the video? Does that work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for digging that out.
No problem. I'm glad I found it so quickly. All right. A wonderful work by Kai Russell Poole. This is a wall-mounted piece, kind of with an Asian theme, very peaceful, very substantial at 40 inches tall and 32 inches wide. It's mounted to a big piece of plexiglass. So the install for this is quite easy if you have a wall or space to put it, which I'd recommend being white because it is a translucent piece.
I remember only made a couple of these, and she offered them for sale. Let me get this right, at Wheaton Village in Millville, New Jersey. And I remember we weren't selling the work. The work was sold at another gallery across the hall from us, across the way from us. And I remember looking at them going, oh, these are just extraordinary, just beautiful, very sensual, very sensitive. I really just enjoyed both of them. And this one, of course, this is my aesthetic. I love the minimal Japanese little uh pagoda and the bridge.
Thank you, Corey. Benjamin Moore. There's been an uptick in demand as of late for Benjamin Moore's work by both clients and institutions. So what better way to celebrate that by putting one at auction? And the artist passed away somewhat recently and has a legacy behind him. And he's worked with a ton of other artists in the past. So I always go through the gallery's photos and I always see pictures of Benjamin Moore from back in the day as he was an early member of the community. And so we're honored to have a piece in the show or in the auction for you to bid on.
He was actually the one that brought Chihuly, or helped with Chihuly to bring Lino Tagliapietro over from Venice. And he might not go in the history books for that, but it is 100% him that was behind instrumenting, bringing Lino over. And you can see, the Saturnos that Lino make and the vessels, the untitled vessel that Benjamin Moore has created, have a similar feel to them.
Thank you, Corey. Getting closer to the end here, we have an acro bag set of 3 by John Littleton and Kate Vogel. These are early historic works by the artist. This one was made kind of late in 2007, though. And these are always fun to see at auction. They always have a demand for them, whether the bags are inside the bags or stacked on top of each other. Very fun themes by the 2 well-known artists that are actually going to be part of our international as well. Another Kari Russell Pool, different style entirely. This is a wonderful teapot, and I had some fun with Google trying to decipher what that plant is on this piece, these pink buds. And I came up with the help of Google. You can actually take a picture and upload it to Google, and it will search the internet for you, which is very convenient nowadays with AI and who knows what. And I will try the name. It's a Lamprocavnius spectacapellis. And I wrote a little bit about the plant in the posting underneath it. But it's always fun to see where artists get inspiration from. They find something that they get attached to and start creating it themselves. They have the ability to do that, to turn nothing into something. And this teapot is a very wonderful example of Kari Russell Pool's work with lots of detail. Paul Schweider, the UK-based artist, does a lot of blowing and then carving. He is a master carver. This piece, you can't really tell. It's leaning back on itself, and it has the same kind of prong on all 3 sides. So you're looking at these uprooting organic-like fingers that come off each side, and it's called a propeller, selenium propeller, what the artist called it. And it's a very interesting piece by the artist. He's really known for his vessel forms, and this is a very rare vessel form that he's created, and we're happy to have it in the auction. Martin Blank, this is what I'm eager to get more videos of this particular sculpture. 23 inches tall, 17 inches wide, humanoid form by the artist who was also a student of Chihuly and worked for Chihuly as well. And he's huge, these human forms, has these beautiful tones and colors to it, but this piece is all clear, focusing on the movement, focusing on the body. And if you see this work in person, I'm hoping to have some more depth to it because this picture doesn't really do it for the work alone. You really need to walk around it to see. Every time I see this piece, I'm always impressed by it.
Yeah, when they
Yeah.
were developed, they were like amazing. And through all the years, they have really held up as very exciting, significant, minimalist kind of approach to the human figure.
Martin Blank he has such a sensibility when it comes to understanding the human form. He can make something just completely representational, and then he can strip it down where it becomes abstract. And then he can strip it down even more where it becomes, as Ferd mentioned, minimal, where you just have a drop of glass representing a head, and then tweaking where that, giving it a total different personality by placing and which way the head's going to place on the rest of the body. It's really quite amazing, and you know, an incredible artist. And again, bounces back from representational to abstract all the time. And this reaching nude is really, I think, an incredible piece.
Thank you, Corey. Another work that Ferd probably sold 40 years ago is this Mark Peiser Sunset Paperweight Vessel. These actually represent real places, Ferd, I heard.
Yes, yeah, he oftentimes would be inspired by, he worked in Finland, so he'd be inspired by the mountains around. And this one is number 251. And I believe he ended up doing like 374 different pieces, but by using the same technique until it became just too difficult for him to do. They look simple. This one is a older, uh, about, let me see, about 15 years into his career of doing this. No, even less than that. But this, he became able to use more minimal imagery and still get the three-dimensional quality, and the composition became really, really good with working very little. The first ones were very complicated, and this actually is very, very exciting.
Yeah, it's quite substantial too. It's bigger than a lot of them I saw in my life, in my work at the gallery. You see them, and it has an overall bigger appearance than a lot of the ones I've seen of the series.
At
And
one
that-
time, I owned number 10 and number 100 from the Paperweight Vase series.
Yeah.
At one in my life, yes. And to see the strides that he had made from number 10 to number 100. And I know what you're saying in terms of the amount of foliage added, which you think would be interesting, but it was almost layered on top of each other. When he was able to break apart and use the vessel as his canvas is when he, I think, the paperweight vases really started to blossom, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the creme de la creme, our final piece of the show, Harvey Hilton and Rocker series. For some, I do have the dimensions on there. Beautiful two-part work and three-part work, including the base. And this is what it's all about. To have something spectacular like this at one of our auctions is always very important. Unique piece, always in high demand, museum quality, and just a wonderful example of the work. Very historic and just overall beautiful. So
yeah, the colors are just beautiful in this. And I remember one of the last lectures I heard Harvey give. He had this a rocker, and he pushed down on it to the gasp of the audience, and it started moving back and forth, back and forth. He said, "My lecture is going to go on as long as this is rocking." And I swear to God, he must have spoke for 45 minutes and it was still moving.
wow.
Pretty extraordinary.
Well, I'll let him do that. If I ever rock one of these things, it'll be on a long table for a couple seconds. Yeah, beautiful work. Well, that wraps up the overall auction. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Actually, I'm going to actually take over the screen again. I'm going to stop my PowerPoint. And I'm going to show everybody real quick what it looks like to go on our website and look at the auction itself. So the auction is posted up. Let's get out of my way here. The auction is posted up on the MasterWorks site, which you can check out anytime and see. Share screen. And it's on our website. So if you're on our website here, go to it because I can't see past the buttons up here top. On our website here, there is a button on top that says MasterWorks right there. View auctions. You click that, takes you to our auction site, which is always the same. And this is the current auction right here. You can accept the terms and bid, or you can view the lots that are there, and you're able to go and click, and you'll see a lot of the 360 videos that I have taken so far, as also with multiple other pictures of the pieces discussed during this talk. Now, some of the pieces don't have multiple pictures yet because they're not out, but I'll be adding them as we go along in the get closer to the actual exhibition and the actual opening, which will happen on May 2nd. So if you have any silent bids you want to place or phone call bids, call me or email me and we'll set those up. The actual bidding process is actually has the lowest buyer's premium if you set up bidding through me. the online systems and the credit you charge by credit card, and they add up to buyer's premiums go higher. So pay attention to that. If you see something you like, just contact me. I'm happy to work it out with you to get your bids placed, which is always great.
Yeah, use MasterWorks over live auctioneers, even though live auctioneers might be a great tool, but they just charge an extra percentage. So just be wary of that. We're trying to push people over to, well, you can use both if you like, but if you're going to acquire a piece, I would go to the MasterWorks site.
Website. Yeah. If you have any more questions about these works, contact me anytime. Doing more photos, like I said. Everything is in great condition, so please check it out. And we're looking forward to seeing everybody real soon here in Royal Oak, Michigan for our Glass52 show coming up next month. If you have any questions, call me. And it's great seeing everybody, and we'll talk real soon. Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Mhm.
Bye-bye.
Bye.